molecular reconstruction, divine empowerment, you name it, Dr. Fate. Hello, everyone. Welcome to CBR Saga, CBR's one and only podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by the Darkhold Diaries. Hey, need a safe space to scribble down your favorite recipes, your celebrity crushes, and maybe one or two evil spells that turn your enemies into goats? Pick up a Darkhold Diary today. But enough about corporate sponsorship. Let's get into today's episode. And magic is in the air for this one, folks. We've got another debate for you, pitting Marvel's top magic users against DC's top magic users. That's right, it's not just super strong heroes punching each other, trying to assert their dominance. No, today's fighters will have to pull every magical ace up their sleeve and, pull a vicious, bunny or something out of a hat if they're going to win today. So who's fighting in this episode? Well, we thought we'd pit the awesome might of Scarlet Witch versus the Lord of Order, Dr. Fate. Then we'll see the God of Mischief, Loki versus Zatanna. Then wrap it up with Doctor Strange versus none other than John Constantine. So pick a card, any card, as we dive right into the wacky world of magic where anything goes. I'm joined today by my co-host, Nick. Nick, how you doing today?
I am doing magical.
Oh, I see what you did there. So we're talking about magic and you're feeling magical. I see. I like it. So when it kind of comes down to it, Nick, which roster in your mind, DC or Marvel, has the strongest magical bench, I guess, to pull from?
Okay, cool. Well, I am a shill for the Marvel stuff.
Naturally.
So I think the Marvel magic users actually have an edge, but it's closer than a lot of people would think. And there's a specific reason that I'll get into in some of the fights. But yeah, I think Marvel ekes it out.
See, it's interesting. I think that you said edges it out, because I actually think there's something a bit edgier about DC magic in my mind. I think it seems like a little bit darker, a little bit, scrappier and ready to kick Marvel's, magic butts. I think DC magic would beat up Marvel magic and steal its lunch money and shove it in a trash can. That's how I feel when I think of DC magic versus Marvel magic. But let's kind of get into it, and we'll see how this goes. So we'll get into our first fight today. We have Scarlet Witch versus Dr. Fate. I mean, Scarlet Witch obviously has become a major, powerful player in the MCU, while Dr. Fate has had a steady presence in, a few cartoons and comics, but will really make a splash when he's played by Pierce Brosnan in the upcoming Black Adam movie. So I think these are two heavy hitters. Nick, you're choosing Scarlet Witch here, obviously. Yeah. Right. I'm curious. Why?
Well, you said she's one of the heaviest hitters in the MCU now. No, she is the top. She's the top dog. They announced it. It's public knowledge. No one is more powerful than the Scarlet Witch. And listen, I think DC is more like the kid who dressed all tough, but really he was sensitive on the inside. Whereas Marvel is Wanda. What Wanda did to the people of Westview, I think is darker than most things in the DC universe. I think Wanda has this sort of chaos about her to where it's almost dangerous that she doesn't even know her own strength. And as she sort of figures that out, I don't think anyone is even a match for her. She's learned how to stop other magical beings, which we saw with Agatha Harkness. I think Dr. Fate would probably just be a normal Tuesday for her.
See, I just think over in the DC universe, sure, Scarlet Witch is maybe the top dog in Marvel, but on DC, Dr. Fate is by far the most powerful sorcerer on Earth. He basically has the powers of a god. I mean, Dr. Fate is interesting because he's not just one person. I mean, there was an ancient being called Nabu who was a Lord of Order, right? And now all that power is confined within a golden helmet. It's a mortal puts on the helmet and is basically possessed by Nabu and becomes Dr. Fate. I mean, there's really nothing I don't think that Dr. Fate can't do. I mean, if you're listing all his abilities, it's besides magic spells, he has molecular reconstruction, divine empowerment, you name it, Dr. Fate.
that was the perfect comedic, it swung first.
That's it. Technical difficulties, folks.
That was fantastic.
See, that's how powerful Dr. Fate is. I just start talking, he starts making things, kind of. kind of break in my area. So that's what Dr. Fate can make happen. I think when facing someone, like as powerful as Scarlet Witch, you need someone who can, resist all like her ability to like matter manipulation and the reality bending shenanigans that she'll throw at them. And like Dr. Fate could do that in his sleep.
So DC's magic there are rules to magic in the DC universe. It's very strange. No pun intended. But I think Marvel's magic, the way it's been portrayed, is much more unrelenting. There's really no rules to it. Like I read somewhere that there's a rule that Dr. Fate cannot cast a counter spell if someone casts a spell against him. Whether that's true or not, it points out a huge weakness just in the magic users of the DC universe. But also, you said that Dr. Fate's powers come from this helmet that he puts on. What's stopping Scarlet Witch from just using her telekinesis to, remove the helmet? Scarlet Witch doesn't need a helmet. We saw in WandaVision that Wanda was a sorceress. She was a magic user long before she ever even came in contact with an Infinity Stone. The Infinity Stone only multiplied her powers, clearly making her the most powerful being in the universe. So I think Dr. Fate has weaknesses where Wanda just doesn't.
I mean, I think when you talk about like weaknesses and stuff, I mean, Scarlet Witch and like the types of magic they use, Scarlet Witch uses chaos magic, right? That was like kind of what that was like the whole thing about of WandaVision. It says like, this is chaos magic. Dr. Fate is a Lord of Order who's sworn to fight chaos. That's literally his whole thing. He's tailor-made for this fight. Yeah, he has his helmet on. If you take the helmet off, it's gone. But I don't think it's that easy to just take it off. I mean, I think that helmet is specifically bonded to him, and Nabu doesn't want that to come off. And if he doesn't want that to come off, that helmet is not coming off. And Dr. Fate, yeah, Scarlet Witch is powerful, but I feel like it's just Scarlet Witch, and she's in her own little like bubble of that's what it is. But like Dr. Fate has more mystical objects that he kind of uses in his normal fights. Like I think he has I wrote these down because I didn't want to forget these. He has like the amulet of Anubis, which not only makes him stronger, but is like a gateway to the dark dimension that he traps super powerful people in. Like, and if he's able to trap Wanda there, good luck, Wanda, creating another hex dimension thing, and because you're already stuck in a different dimension. Doesn't matter. He wears the cloak of destiny, which gives him invulnerability and super strength. So not only could Dr. Fate beat her with magic, but he also he can't be hurt. And if he got close enough, would have super strength and would actually be able to fight Wanda, while Scarlet Witch is just a normal person. I mean, all these factors add up to Dr. Fate winning this.
So you keep telling me Dr. Fate needs all these things to be powerful. Wanda doesn't. If he gets close enough, Wanda has gone up against being stronger than her when you look at Thanos. Thanos wasn't even able to get close because of Wanda's powers. And if we're playing in the rules of like Marvel magic, Wanda just learned a neat little new trick where if you put little symbols on the walls around you, the other person can't use magic, and she's the only one who can. So if she uses that, I would imagine it would work against Dr. Fate. And then the last thing you said about dimensions, he has this thing that lets him enter other dimensions. Wanda creates her own dimensions. She doesn't need a little amulet. She could literally trap him in this hex, in another hex, have him be the annoying neighbor while Agatha's like the nice neighbor, and she could just live in between them happily ever after.
All right, so that's kind of we can move on to our next one here. So that's like our first battle. Who wins? I think one thing, Nick thinks another. Let us know who's wrong in the comments as we move on to our second battle. And this one is kind of a fun one. We have Loki versus Zatanna, the trickster god, versus a powerful Homo Magi, which is a subrace of naturally magic wielding humans. So I think you started the last one off, so I think I'll start this one off. It's like I know that this is a tough fight. Like, right, because Loki is Loki. I mean, he's kind of he's God, and Zatanna is not. But I still think that Zatanna can clinch a victory over Loki, and I think here's the main reason. I mean, because Zatanna basically has no limit when it comes to her magic and what she wants to do. She casts her spells by speaking backwards, and then by doing that, she can practically make anything happened just by doing that. Like Loki basically feels like small potatoes to me, and it's very limited to his cheap parlor tricks. I mean, like I'd love to rent out Loki to perform some like shape shifting or something for maybe like a 3-year-old's like birthday party. But when it comes down to a fight and when you're actually using this magic against one another, I got to go Zatanna.
That's interesting you say that, because Zatanna is literally a stage magician. That is her job. She's the one with the cheap parlor tricks or whatever.
Side
but
gig.
Actually, I will concede a little bit that when you said like this would be a tough fight, I actually kind of thought you meant for Loki, because I agree. Zatanna is actually very powerful, and her powers sort of have no limits as long as she can, speak the word backwards. I take issue with a lot of that, because a lot of words are sort of impronounceable when they're spelled backwards. But on the other side of it, Loki is a trickster who finds out the weaknesses of his opponents and exploits them. He's done it time and time again, and he has a habit of not dying. He's really good at that. So here's the thing. If I'm Loki and I see that this person just needs to say a word backwards in order to make her magic work, I'm going to put that thing that Thor put over Loki's mouth in the Avengers right over Zatanna, and then she's got nothing, and I think Loki takes the day.
Well, you have to get close enough in order to do that. But the problem is Zatanna is so powerful in her powers. I mean, like, it's not just straight up magic. I mean, she has like weather manipulation, reality alteration, teleportation, size alteration, healing, phasing, transformation. She has so much stuff that stops anybody from kind of walking up and slapping, covering her mouth. She has so many weapons in her arsenal. While Loki has what? I mean, like, the most we've seen him do is, like, especially in this one, he struggled. He didn't know how that he could create, visions and create alterations by going into people's minds. He didn't know he could do that after about 1,000 years, which is kind of telling about what he does. All he does is he can shapeshift into Captain America. He has one instance where he blasts away a big pillar, and that's the most powerful scene that we've ever seen him do. And it was so powerful and so out of the ordinary for Loki that it made everybody think that scene wasn't even real, because he was like, Loki could never do that before. So, I mean, like, his power level is so minimal compared to the awesome might of Zatanna.
He also force pulls a Roomba. Let's not forget about that. That was definitely real. I agree. Loki has some limits in his power, but Loki wins this because he is the god of mischief. He's the trickster god. He will find a way to do it. I think Zatanna is a little overconfident, if we're being honest. I think she's very self-empowered, which is a great thing, but I think Loki will find a way to exploit that. A lot of the things you said Zatanna can do, Loki can do a lot of those things too. He can make copies of himself. He can project images. And at the end of the day, he's a great hand-to-hand fighter. So if he does get close enough to take away Zatanna's ability to speak words backwards and therefore use her magic, he wins in a hand-to-hand fight, and he can conjure weapons from thin air. He can go toe-to-toe with Thor when he fights Thor in the Avengers and, every Thor movie, because they always fight because they hate each other, but they love each other. It's kind of sweet. But I think at the end of the day, Loki has enough tricks up his sleeve, literally, to take out Zatanna, to distract Zatanna, and win the fight.
See, I think Loki has suffered a lot in the MCU, and I think he's going to suffer more here. I mean, I think that's plain and simple. The only way for him, because you say, yeah, he is a trickster god, and he'll do what he'll do best in this. He'll fake his death and go into hiding, because that's like the only, and that doesn't count as a win. That counts as running away, and the win, it goes to the win column of Zatanna there. But that's just, do you have a?
I was just gonna say, let's call it a tie. If he runs away.
If he runs away, it's a tie. I take. Well, that's a little iffy. I don't think it's like, oh, hey, that other team ran away, didn't show up for the fight. I guess we both win. I think that's a
good point.
But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments as we move to our third and final fight. This one's an interesting one. So, or I guess you could say it's a little bit of a strange one. Yeah.
I think it's more of a Constantine one.
Doctor Strange versus John Constantine. I started the last one. Nick, you can start this one.
Sure. So, I believe this is the most powerful magic user, other than Wanda, in the MCU, is Dr. Stephen Strange. Not only is he extremely powerful when we see him, but we see how quickly he picks up on magic. Like, he goes from being a guy banging at the door to being the Sorcerer Supreme, and all throughout that time, Wong just got a promotion to being the librarian. So he's clearly much more gifted in learning the mystic arts than anyone around him. So I think he's quick on his feet in a fight, and I think the powers he displayed against Thanos, being able to make copies of himself, being able to use the Crimson Bands, and his manipulation and mastery of the Time Stone, I think shows that Doctor Strange is the better magic user between the two of these.
All right, and I actually would give you that. I do think Doctor Strange is the better magic user, but John Constantine, I think, is one of the most interesting characters to watch work his magic, so to speak. Because yes, yeah, on the power levels, Doctor Strange is more powerful, but Doctor Strange, it seems like a very straightforward fighter. He has an enemy. He fights that enemy. Constantine is already an insanely powerful magic user, but he's usually up against stronger people. That's like his MO. He usually faces these world-ending demons, these gods of magic, these really powerful users, and yet he still wins every single time. Not because of his strength, but because of his cunning, his wits, his tendency to bend the rules and fight with trickery and deception. He's basically like Loki in the DC universe, where he'll find a way to undermine a very strong opponent by maybe not even necessarily using magic, but by being, as he's called, the world's greatest con man, so to speak. So when you're facing someone who is so arrogant, like Doctor Strange is, so straightforward, who you can play into his ego as much as Doctor Strange has, then John Constantine is, I think, could pull out a win like he usually does.
So Doctor Strange might not be the god of mischief, but he's definitely one for tricks. You saw how he did that against Ebony Maw when he put the spell on the Eye of Agamotto, and then the Time Stone wound up not even being in there. It wound up being a fake. Doctor Strange is definitely no stranger to tricks, to people playing practical jokes on him, as it were. And I just think Doctor Strange has the upper hand here in that, again, he uses the Marvel brand of magic, which sort of comes with no strings attached, other than like obvious consequences. Like if you mess with time could tend to mess back. DC magic has these weird unintended consequences that are so unrelated. Like Constantine at one point agrees to like learn this dark magic and use this spell. But because he uses this spell, his family like bursts into flames. It's crazy and it's weird, but like Constantine could try and use a spell, and then his girlfriend could like blow up next to him, and that would definitely distract him from the fight, I would think. Not to mention, if Zatanna's still fighting in the next room, he might be a little distracted by that.
In these fights that we set up, it's individual room that are fighting at the same time, obviously. Yeah.
Correct. With see-through mirrors on the side. But no, I think Doctor Strange just has a better mastery of magic. I don't think Constantine's tricks are going to work because I think Doctor Strange is used to that. And I think Doctor Strange's brand of magic is more powerful than Constantine's.
See, and I think that is really interesting that you said that there's costs to the magic. And yes, I think that would distract a lot of different people before, but not John Constantine. John Constantine is the type of guy to let his girlfriend burst into flames and not bat an eye at it while he's trying to beat his opponent. Or he's the type of guy to use his magic to maybe affect, not even maybe Doctor Strange is too powerful of a villain. Like, right? Like maybe he, or too powerful of a villain that he has to face. So what does he do? He'll go after Claire. Claire. He'll go after Claire or anybody he knows, or even Wong. He'll go after Christine. and that's how important she was in that movie. I forgot her name. But she'll go after Constantine will go after Doctor Strange's weak points, which is the people that he knows. He'll go after the temple. He'll go after anybody that he knows. John Constantine doesn't have those ties, and John Constantine isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. Maybe Constantine would even try to woo Christine because he's the type of guy to try to steal your girl. Because I think he basically did that with Zatanna and Zatara. He was fighting Zatara, and then he became boyfriend and girlfriend with Zatanna. So John Constantine will do whatever it takes to win, and is not held back by the limitations of DC magic.
So I think you're right about a lot of things you just said about Constantine, but I still think Doctor Strange has this ability to stay focused. They're if they had no magic powers, they're very different people. Doctor Strange is this focused individual who's able to like become a neurosurgeon, like the world's top neurosurgeon, and he's able to learn the Mystic Art. He's able to read a book in his sleep. So I think Doctor Strange has the discipline that it takes to wield magic better. And I think that's just the difference here, because Constantine can use all these tricks. He can woo Christine if he really wants to. I don't know that relationship's the most solid thing anyway. So I think Doctor Strange would get over it. But Doctor Strange just climbs the ladder of power so quickly that I don't think Constantine can keep up. He has mastery over time manipulation. He can use his sling ring to enter other dimensions and trap Constantine there. And Constantine has shown like some ability to like control time and dimensions like that. But again, because of the difference in these two characters, Constantine is just nowhere near the level Doctor Strange is.
All right, so I think that about wraps up today's episode of CBR Saga. Let us know what you think in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I want to thank Nick for joining me today, and we'll be back next time with another exciting episode. Thank you all very much, and stay magical.